Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to the Rock Pile here. I'm going to do a quick video here this morning, early this afternoon, on my top 10 coaching replacements for Jim Harbaugh. It pains me to talk about this because I am a diehard Michigan fan. I've been one my entire life. After last night's lopsided 49-11. Let me repeat that. 49-11. They lost to Wisconsin. And the big knock on Jim Harbaugh since he's been at Michigan, he can't win the big games. He can't develop a quarterback. And last night, Joe Milton was 9-19 for 98 yards, 2 interceptions. And here's the other big stat: 19 total carries for 47 yards. An interesting stat line with Jim Harbaugh since he's been at Michigan. He's 37-5 against ranked teams, which you think at any school, that's pretty good, right? Not so fast. Not at Michigan, though. Why? Because he's 7-12 against the Big Ten ranked teams. He's 11-16 overall against ranked teams. He's 1-6 at home against Ohio State and Michigan State, which is not good. The bigger stat line, the bigger record, which all Michigan alum, it got Lloyd Carr fired at Michigan. It got Gary Moeller fired at Michigan. He's 0-5 against the Buckeyes. And I don't see any chance. There's no chance this year they beat Ohio State. I'm just hoping that Ryan Day doesn't put 70 up on Jim Harbaugh. No chance, 0 to beat the Buckeyes. He's also 1-8 against the top 10. They're getting beat up all over the field. And the biggest thing to me when I watch Michigan, they're not playing inspired. They're not motivated. They're going through motions. They're not tackling. They're not blocking. They're not doing the basics. It's a dysfunctional team. It's an unmotivated team. That's on the coaches, and I've been a Jim Harbaugh guy my entire life. I can't figure out why it hasn't worked with Jim Harbaugh. I do not understand it. A guy that's the 4th winningest coach in NFL history, was 2 plays away from San Francisco winning the Super Bowl, took a quarterback like Colin Kaepernick, who I still think deserves a shot in the NFL. I think he's better right now than half the quarterbacks in the National Football League. But I'm going to give you my top 10 coaches. No particular order of what coaches I think Michigan's going to turn to. Again, no particular order. My first one, Chris Klieman, the head coach at Kansas State. Yes, Chris Klieman. I've been on his bandwagon since he got to Kansas State. They were my pick to win the Big 12. Coach Han, hope you're not watching, but I had to go with Kansas State this year. They were my preseason pick to win the Big 12. He's a Midwest native guy, and if you remember, North Dakota State, that guy that plays on Sundays, Carson Wentz, all Coach Klieman has done is won national championships at North Dakota State. Not saying he takes the job or he's interested in a job, but I still think Chris Kleiman's got a shot. Number 2, who many think should be the head coach at Michigan, and I will tell you, I hate to say this, I think if this job's open at the end of the year, if I'm the Michigan athletic director, I'm picking up the phone and I'm trying to get Luke Fickell. Fickell's a former Ohio State, played at Ohio State, was the coach there for a year when Urban Meyer left, the defensive coordinator there under Jim Tressel. He was born in Columbus. He passed up last year, though. Remember this and think about this. He passed up the job in East Lansing to stay at Cincinnati. But look at this Michigan State team this year. They're struggling all over the field. Cincinnati, Coach Fickell's got them prepped and ready to go. If they can finish unbeaten, do they get a shot to play in the BCS? We'll see. But I think Luke Fickell's an interesting choice. One I'm not 100% sold on. He's young. He's 32 years old. Matt Campbell, the head coach at Iowa State. He's born in Massillon, Ohio. He's got Ohio ties. His best finish, though, in the Big 12, 3rd. But he gets his players ready to play. And if you remember, he came from Toledo. He built Toledo into a powerhouse in the MAC. I think he'd be an interesting choice, but we'll see if he's interested in the job. Another one, I'm not sure this is going to happen either. Again, in no particular order am I doing coaches, but I'm going to go with P.J. Fleck. I think P.J. Fleck, another young, dynamic coach. Remember, Big Ten ties, Midwest ties too. He was the former head coach at Western Michigan. He's got Midwest recruiting roots. He's recruiting 4- and 5-star athletes to come to Minnesota. I know this year they're struggling a little bit, but last year, 11-win season. They got a chance to play for the Big Ten title last year. So we'll see. He's got some Big Ten ties. We'll see what happens. I'm going with an NFL guy here, Eric Bieniemy. Eric sleeping with Bieniemy, hot NFL name. The only problem with Bieniemy, he hasn't gotten a call for an NFL job just yet. I'm not sure why. Maybe he doesn't interview well. I think Eric Bieniemy deserves a shot in the NFL. He's the mastermind of that offense in Kansas City. By the way, that guy, Patrick Mahomes, plays for Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy, if you remember, star running back at Colorado. I think it would be an interesting hire to bring in Bieniemy. I'm sure he'd bring a lot of NFL assistants with him, but I'm not sure. Maybe Bieniemy is going to be rooming for more jobs in the NFL. I'm going with a wild card here. I'm not saying Mike Hart were to get this job. I'm sure he'd be interested. He's the running back coach at Indiana. He was also the assistant coach at Eastern and Western Michigan. He's Tom Allen's top assistant at Indiana. Listen, Mike Hart was an undersized back at Michigan, played with a lot of heart. That's what this Michigan team needs. They need somebody who's going to come in there and give them everything they have. And I think Mike Hart would be an interesting choice. I don't think he's got the experience yet. Maybe he goes into an offensive coordinator job at some point, but I think Mike Hart's going to be a rising star in the coaching field. Another one here I'm going with is a wild card. His name comes up all the time. I'm going Bob Stoops, the former Oklahoma coach. He's the current head coach and general manager of the Dallas Renegades. If you remember, yes, all the college football fans, he was at Oklahoma from 1999 to 2016, 11 top 10 finishes, 10 Big 12 titles, 1 national championship while he was at Oklahoma. He's only 59 years old. It'd be a wild card, but if Michigan comes calling, Bob Stoops may be the guy for Michigan. Another one, it pains for me to say this. People have said it the whole time. They should go to Urban Meyer. No way. I'm giving this a 0% chance that Urban Meyer comes to Michigan. He said he would never take this job. After coaching with the Buckeyes, he was at Bowling Green. He did a fantastic job at Utah as well. I will say this. I still think Urban Meyer, there's 2 jobs for Urban Meyer. Number 1 is USC. Number 2 is Texas. I'm not saying Texas parts ways with Tom Herman, but I think Texas is an interesting choice and destination for Urban Meyer. And I'll throw in a third one. It's not going to happen this year, but I'm going to say Notre Dame, if something down the road happens to Brian Kelly, I think Notre Dame becomes in play for Urban Meyer. But if they come calling $7-8 million a year, Urban Meyer may listen. My last 2, again, no particular order. Let's go to Joe Brady. Joe Brady, if you remember last year, was the architect of that LSU offense. What people don't know, Joe Brady was a grad assistant at Penn State back in 2015. And he was also an assistant coach for Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints. Of course, everybody remembers the dynamite run last year with Joe Burrow. He is currently the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. Maybe Joe Brady gets a call for the head job here at Michigan. I'd be happy to take Joe Brady. Many people think, and I've already said, there's a lot of NFL head coaching jobs that'll be opening up, and many think that Joe Brady's going to be at the top of the list. And how about this one? I don't have this one on here. But what about Matt Rule? Matt Rule, his first year as the head coach for the Panthers, was at Baylor, was also at Temple. Maybe Matt Rule comes back to the college game after 1 year. Would be an interesting hire, that's for sure. And last but not least, in no particular order, I said my list today, I'm going with my guy, Dave Clawson. I don't know if Michigan's the best fit for Coach Clawson, but I will say this. He's led Wake Forest to 4 winning seasons, 4 consecutive bowl games. Here's the stat line, folks. He's 3-1 in bowl games, and he's been at Fordham, Richmond, Bowling Green, and Wake Forest. The best thing about Coach Clawson, I personally think, is player development. He gets his players ready to play. Jamie Newman, who was the All-American last year at Wake Forest, decided to transfer to go to Georgia. And what did Coach Clawson do? In comes Sam Hartman, who played some time at Wake Forest, and they haven't lost a beat on offense. I think Dave would be an interesting choice. I don't know if it's the best fit. I know academically it would be a good fit for him. And imagine what he could do with the resources and the money at Michigan. And I'm going to go, last but not least, I'm going to go my sleeper pick. I'm going to go Brett Venables, the defensive coordinator at Clemson. I think Coach Venables will get his opportunity. I'm not sure if this is the opportunity for him, but this Michigan defense under Don Brown has struggled the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm going to say this. I think they have struggled the last 5 years against the big teams. They haven't been able to play with Ohio State. They haven't had good winning success against Penn State and Michigan State. They play that press man coverage. He likes to get after the quarterback, but he doesn't have the talent on the outside to run with some of the top receivers. So those are my choices. Who would I pick? I'm going to go with Luke Fickell. I think when the season's over, I know Luke Fickell passed on the Michigan State job. I think he passed it up because he knew the Cincinnati team was going to be special, and Michigan State was in a spiral, a downward spiral. But I think if Michigan comes calling, imagine the rivalry game Michigan and Ohio State goes back to the Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes, the Jim Tressels, the list goes on and on and on. I think that Luke Fickell would be the first choice for the University of Michigan. And that is my top 10 replacements for Jim Harbaugh, who at the end of the year, I feel will mutually part ways with the University of Michigan. I think they'll find a way to mutually do it. Maybe they'll help him get a job in the NFL. They're not going to want to ruin their reputation. Remember, he was an icon at Michigan as a player, was the quarterback for Bo Schembechler. So I think they'll do this the right way. I think they'll mutually agree at the end of the season, it's time to move on, and Jim Harbaugh gets back to the NFL.